sounds like they're really worried about the chickens, right? Or are they worried about the wings? These chickens are having their wings broken. Welcome to Rising Anxieties. I'm Mariann Sullivan, and this is where we talk about what we're worried about. I know we're worried about a lot of stuff, but it's also where we talk about what the animal ag industry is worried about, and sometimes that makes us happy. Don't forget we're a podcast and we're on YouTube. Please subscribe and hit like wherever you listen. That really helps us out, as you know, because everybody says that. And yeah, let's get into some of these articles. My first one for today is really interesting. It's from Watt Poultry, and this is by Elizabeth Doman, and she is actually specifically addressing what the poultry industry is worried about. 5 poultry health welfare areas in need of innovation. And notice she actually mentions the word welfare, which they don't always do. And these are the things they're worried about. They're worried about disease. That's not surprising. And they're worried about labor. And I think there was one other thing. All right, the first one, avian metapneumovirus. I never heard of it. Apparently, it is now the number one health concern for turkey and broiler producers. For some reasons, it's not very widespread among egg-laying hens yet. Yeah, so they got a new disease between 2023 and 2025. AMPV, as they call it, jumped from 38th place to the number one concern in turkey veterinary surveys. Similar concerns about AMPV exist for the broiler industry as well. I looked it up, since I had never heard of it, to see if people can get it. Apparently, people can't get it. However, they can get human metapneumovirus, which is, it's like this whole, like we all become experts in viruses of late past few years. And, it's one of those things that there's a worry that the avian metapneumovirus could easily adapt and start infecting humans. So yay, yeah, good. And then they're also still worried about bird flu. Even though that's not their main concern anymore. AMPV dominates current concerns, but HPAI, highly pathogenic avian influenza, remains quote unquote devastating. And this is really hitting egg-laying hens hard. And where depopulation requirements can mean losing millions of birds from a single positive test. Never like a bit of worry about the birds. I guess they're happy to be out of it after their miserable, horrible death. The experts agreed that wild bird control represents the most critical biosecurity challenge. Ominous, right? Ominous. What are they going to start doing to wild birds in order to save the chickens who they've infected? Unbelievable. All right. Then labor. Automating welfare monitoring to reduce human subjectivity. In this, they're not talking about being worried that they don't have enough people to work for them. But of course, there's a lot of things going on about labor and immigration. So that's a huge overriding concern. But here they're specifically just talking about making welfare monitoring better, which, could use some work, I'm sure. Decision support tools that assist rather than replace human judgment. Automated footpad scoring at processing plants. Processing plants, of course, is their word for slaughterhouses, with feedback loops to farms. So they're going to look at the footpads of chickens at the slaughterhouse and tell the farm that they did something bad. Remote auditing capabilities through camera systems. Well, that's got to be a good idea. Who gets to see what's going on in the cameras? That's the big question. What do you think? But I guess there's always a worry that if they take these films, we'll get a hold of them. Addressing the labor, this is fourth, addressing the labor crisis through automation. So more about automation. This time they're specifically talking about how they don't have enough people to work for them. The greatest opportunities are in hatcheries and processing plants, again, slaughterhouses. So all of these, things that they can do. One of the things on farms is they want to have automated catching systems for broilers. Broilers are the chickens that minimizes wing damage while reducing reliance on contract labor. Because you don't want wing damage. And why don't you want wing damage? Well, as this guy quoted here, Young McComb, that they do have automatic catching technology, but it needs improvement. Quote, there's some good ones out there, but there also needs to be definitely some improvement as far as wing breakage and things like that. Sounds like they're really worried about the chickens, right? Or are they worried about the wings? These chickens are having their wings broken. The last thing is a new term. It's probably not new to them, but it's new to me. Improving livability. That's what they call. That's what they call it when too many animals die. That they need to improve livability. Livability within their industry, i.e., that all of their animals don't die. Weight and this quote at the beginning: weight and feed conversion don't matter if they're dead. I guess that's true. Um, all right, so this guy, Young McComb, pointed out that broiler mortality was already trending upward before AMPV and HPAI, which I spoke about before, returned, likely due to rapid genetic changes, antibiotic-free production requirements, and immunosuppressive factors creating a perfect storm, i.e., their industry is built to kill the animals. The only hope is that they can slaughter them soon enough before they die. That's really what we're talking about here. Um, and as he points out, when you have a hen in production and she dies, there's a lot of money that's gone into that bird. Fuck you. Unbelievable. I'm sorry. Now that everybody's cursing, I'm trying to stop, but sometimes I don't succeed. All right, it's from Sentient Media. Dairy and meat industries push for access to H-2A farm workers while the Trump administration slashes their pay. This is about the H-2A visa program, obviously. This is this program for what has always been seasonal, i.e., our crops have to be picked, and of course we can't get Americans to do it, so it's only a temporary job. So we should be able to ship people in from Mexico to do it, because it's just temporary work. And that was always the idea behind the H-2A visa. And but the meat industry wants in, but of course they are not seasonal. They torture those animals year round. And as this article points out, which is of course from Sentient Media, it's by Gray Moran, and is coming from the same perspective that we are, and points out that it's been likened to indentured servitude. Well, yeah, it's really like indentured servitude. And the dairy and meat industries want in. That's a good way of putting it. The seasonal workers now can work for up to 10 months a year, but they can't be here permanently. So the meat industry is pushing to grant year-round visas, which I guess they would be here permanently. I mean, why not? And this is both in factory farms and in slaughterhouses. And also, probably related to this, there has been a push in recent years to keep the wages of these H-2A workers high, and so that because they're competing with American workers, and we don't want them to be able to compete at a much lower wage, or American workers wouldn't be able to get the jobs. And they're getting rid of that. 2025 saw severe cuts to H-2A workers' wages. This is an excellent article. I am barely scratching the surface here. Please go read it. And there are these other visas, H-2B visas, but they're very limited, and some players in the meat industry do get those, but they really want in on H-2A, which are the really good ones, because they've been compared to indentured servitude. And it grants employers a high level of control over workers. The visa are tied to a single employer who also provides their housing, transportation, and livelihood. If an H-2A worker is fired, they don't just lose their job, they're out of the country. And so, indentured servitude. And if they so I'll just quote this because this is exactly right. The expansion of this model to a year-round workforce would effectively establish a new class of permanent low-wage workers with few rights and no economic mobility. And I would even add to that, and also a complete inability to speak out, because they can't tell anybody what's happening, or they'll be out of the country. This guy, Daniel Costa, who's the director of Immigration Loan Policy at Economic Policy Institute, points out it's a really horrible idea and a little dystopian to bring in people on a temporary visa to make them permanently temporary. This is just, it's so outrageous, it's unbelievable. I mean, these workers are incredibly vulnerable. They want to create this underclass that is like basically it's like going back to slavery. I mean, not literally, but many of the implications there. And also, these workers can't leave. So you can imagine how well they're treated. There's been a lot of instances of wage theft. They get charged for if they can't like lower their wages, then they charge them for their meals. Overcharge them for their meals, charge them really a lot of money, and the conditions are bad. Or they have to pay recruitment fees because these people are desperate, and uh, a million different ways to exploit these people. Um, and they can charge them for housing, which I am sure is really charming. All the reports I've ever seen on it have been just scandalous. And this has to be stopped, and I don't know whether it's going to be because apparently our noble Secretary of Agriculture is hell bent on making this work. Highly recommend the article. Um, Something we should all know about. All right. From drovers, cattle collapse early Friday. Don't worry, the cattle did not collapse. They're talking about the price. And based on New World Screwworm. You thought it was just what was the other one? Avian metapneumonia or something. This is on beef though, not chickens. And the feeder cattle futures collapsed on a rumor of New World Screwworm case being reported in New Mexico. That may not be true, but it is rapidly moving up in Mexico itself, and it's just a matter of time until it gets here if it isn't here already. Texas Agriculture Commissioner Sid Miller is urging heightened vigilance from livestock producers along the Texas-Mexico border because Mexico confirmed 8 additional cases of New World Screwworm in Tamaulipas. My apologies for probably mispronouncing that. This is from Ag Daily. Um, and yeah, this is something that they're really worried about. And guess whose tax money is paying for trying to prevent it? Yours. And if you live in Texas, an extra big amount of yours, because it's both the Texas Department of Agriculture and the USDA are working on trying to keep this from happening. And we've been hearing a lot about all the stuff they're doing, like breeding these sterile flies and whatever. Apparently, it's not working. All right, I just wanted to add, this is an article from World Animal Protection. I report on the stuff that's been going on in the EU about changing the names that they can call, like burgers or plant-based substitutes for plant-based meat analogs. And recently, it's been very bad news, and they decided that they're going to have these strict limits on plant-based food labels. I don't know and understand the EU government at all. I admit it. Like I don't have the will to learn it. I don't. I have enough trouble with the United States. Um, but apparently, I thought it was done. I thought it was finally done, and we had finally lost. But now, according to World Animal Protection, the EU postpones the decision on plant-based food labels amid growing concerns. So, people have been fighting back, and apparently they've gotten somewhere. And you wouldn't be able to call things a burger or a sausage, like even if you call it, make clear it's plant-based, that sort of thing. And so apparently discussions are going to continue. I feel like I've been talking about this for 10 years, which I think is not an exaggeration. All right, finally, before I leave you, I will just add one article. This doesn't have anything to do with rising anxieties, I don't think, but I wanted to mention it. From Plant-Based News, our friends at Plant-Based News, plant-based food labels that highlight protein could increase uptake by over 100%, says study. I was just talking about this last week, I think with Jasmine on the Hen Report, and I was just so happy to see this, that I think everybody's on the same page here. We have to make clear to people that there's protein in plants. And I don't know whether it would make a difference, but it just seems like we could also make clear that the protein in plants is accompanied by fiber, which also I think is getting, starting to get a little recognition as vitally necessary to human health. And the protein in animal-based foods is accompanied by saturated fat, which still has a pretty bad reputation in spite of many efforts to rehabilitate it. So uh, I totally agree. Protein, protein, protein. If that's what they want to hear, that's what we want to say. I have no idea how much protein you need. I'm not going to opine on that. I know most people in our movement thinks it's a hell of a lot less than they're currently saying, but I don't care. We got protein. I don't care if you need it. We got protein, we got loads of protein, and I think, everybody's starting to talk about that, which is a good thing. I think that's it for this week's Rising Anxieties. Um, don't forget to listen to our other shows. Last week we had this great interview with Sue Donaldson and Will Kimlicka about their book from Oxford University Press, Animals and the Right to Politics. Fascinating discussion. A lot about the view of the minimal animal, which so much ag-reform depends on, that they need something, but they just need, like, not to be put in hideous pain. And they need more than that, sadly. And they're not getting it. And tune into the Hen Report on Thursday and Friday. We'll have Laura Lee Cascada on the Aquaculture Accountability Project, which is seeking, quote, to expose the myth behind sustainable seafood. We cannot have too many people working on that. It's unbelievable how people think it's totally fine to eat shrimp. Ridiculous. So don't forget to tune into them, and thanks so much for tuning in today. And don't forget to subscribe, either where you're listening or where you're watching.